Do you like that people go into your movies trying to figure out what is Christopher Nolan saying this time?
Most movies present a quite comfortable universe where we're given an objective truth that we don't get in everyday life. It's one of the reasons we go to the movies.
What did you feel was your obligation to the franchise, other than make a good movie?
What I wanted to do was do something that I'd never seen before.
That we don't try to serve an existing interpretation of the character.
This symbol is a persona.
And addressing the origins of that, the origin story, which hadn't been told in films before.
Buried enough members for the Wayne family.
And The Dark Knight is all about a fear of anarchy, fear of the rules breaking down and what that would do to society.
There are no rules. Anything can be true.
We were looking really for a way of approaching an inversion of society, a complete shattering of the structures of society.
And I think Fritz Lang, in his work, is this incredible way of looking at fanciful villains and so forth, integrated into a recognizable world.
The relationship between the city and the master criminal.
The mob doesn't scare me.
Rival gangs, guardian angels, get them off the street.
Things are worse than ever!
How could you want to raise children in a city like this?
Well, I was raised here. I turned out okay.
And here we go.
Criminals aren't complicated, Alfred.
With respect, Master Wayne, perhaps this is a man you don't fully understand either. Some men aren't looking for anything logical. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with.
I told you, man of my word.
Why should I have all the fun?
You see, I'm a guy of simple taste. I enjoy dynamite, gunpowder, and gasoline.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
But a good villain, the devil has the best tunes, that's the thing. And it's what really, as I say, it's the engine of the film, it's what really makes it work.
But a lot of it was about unpredictability, whether it was going to go high, whether it was going to go low. You never knew what that guy was going to do, and that was what was terrifying.
It's endlessly complex and interesting in its ethics.
See, their morals, their code, it's a bad joke.
Were you surprised by the appeal of the Joker to audiences, how fascinated they were by him?
No, I wasn't. Right from the first hair and makeup test, you could see everybody on the floor just fascinated.
Then on his way out, he very quietly, not in any flashy way, he went to every single member of the crew and just thanked them for working longer. Very quietly, didn't even want anyone to see that he was doing it, and that's the kind of guy he was.
He was an extraordinary person, an extraordinary actor.
And I started experimenting with digital 3D cameras and then blowing it up to IMAX, and then digital 3D came along, and then IMAX went digital, and it was all happening in this kind of at this furious pace.
But I had read an interview with James Cameron years before where he had talked about whether you could make a film on IMAX and how that would work. So rather than doing different versions or whatever, you'd have one definitive version that you could transfer to your other distribution formats. And that stuck in the back of my head.
What is your favorite shot that you have captured with an IMAX camera?
I'd probably have to go with the opening shot.
This Joker guy was so smart, he had us bring a bigger car.
It was a great success and kind of moved the format forwards, and I've been working in that format ever since.
Trying to do these things for real, trying to use real locations, and try to shoot as much in camera as possible.
Chris brought a real sense from his more independent background of maintaining, a great intimacy and not losing the storytelling and not making it, impersonal at all.
For me, and one of the reasons I make films for the cinema, is the film's not finished until it goes to the audience. It's the audience who finishes the film, and they tell you what it is.
What did it mean to you for him to win his posthumous Oscar? Was that something you took a great pride in?
I took huge pride in having been in any way involved. It was very meaningful for his family and meaningful, I think, for film history that what he contributed.
Camera.
on, I want you to do it. I want you to do it. Come on, hit me. Come on, hit me. Come on, hit me. Hit me.
Most of the things we do in life are a peculiar combination of impulses.
A few years before, we'd actually tried to do a feature-length project and never really been able to finish it. And the limitations we hit technically in trying to make a 16mm feature film, we addressed some of those technical limitations and over a period of a few years doing a couple of short films.
You had made some shorts. Were you looking for a feature idea, or did this idea just come to you? How did that all happen?
We'd made a couple of short films where you sort of learned, in a sense, how to make a short film in a weekend, like Doodlebug or Larceny, these short films we worked on. You'd shoot it in a weekend, and then you'd edit it and whatever and put it together. When we came to do Following, we were sort of shooting a short film every weekend. So it would be a 2-minute, 3-minute chunk of the film done every weekend, and that was the approach we took.
Following was literally made, with friends, shooting on the weekend. We were all working.
And we were all working full-time when we made it, so we could only shoot 1 day a week. We would get together on Saturdays and shoot this film and shoot sort of 15 minutes of footage every week. And it took about a year of filming to get it all finished.
And it was made for nothing.
A no-budget film in the true sense. We spent about $6,000 on the entire movie, and the only thing we spent any money on at all was buying the film stock and processing it. Everything else, people just brought their own lunch and made their own costumes or wore their own clothes. A lot of the film was shot in my parents' house.
And in the case of Following, the non-linear structure was a somewhat unusual choice. And I thought the way to do it would be to write the story in chronological terms and then edit it to that structure.
You get the headline version of the film, and then each scene is sort of expanding the story in terms of filling in the gaps between the events you've already seen. Yeah. And the thinking behind that is if we ran out of money halfway through, we'd have a film.
But it's those things that are the strength of the project.
But even when I was conceiving what the story for Following would be, I was thinking about a black and white film. Shooting in black and white was embraced as a limitation.
Who and why? So, Chris, how good is your memory?
Well, the film is all about memory.
It was based on a short story that my brother Jonah was writing.
He told it to me while we were driving cross-country between Chicago and Los Angeles.
I said to him, well, can I take it and write a screenplay from it while you work on your story, and get it the way you want? And he said yes. And the other thing that Jonah and I collaborated on that he really created was the website for the film, which is at otnamem.com, which is Memento, spelled backwards. It doesn't really give any information about the film particularly, but it creates a narrative link between the world of his story and the world of the finished film. And people often refer to Memento as having a non-linear structure, but it isn't. It's very linear. You actually can't remove a scene from the film because each scene depends on its relationship with the preceding scene and the one that follows.
And my approach to doing that was to effectively tell the story backwards. Because that way, they don't know what's happened before the scene they're seeing. How do we put the audience into his head? If we deny the audience the information that he's denied, we take away the audience's short-term memory, then we give them a really interesting experience. The way in which we cut between these two things is we'll take a color scene, and then we'll cut to a black and white scene that's shorter in length, and then we come back to the color scene, and we basically, as these are going essentially backwards in time, so essentially what we're always doing is we're beginning every scene with something of a cliffhanger, and then in a later scene we're explaining how that situation has been arrived at. What's interesting, why a lot of people come out of the film feeling that there are all kinds of unanswered questions, is because even though the film provides narrative answers to the main questions, it doesn't specify exactly why people have done things. That actually is pretty much that's the whole movie. In fact, you can just watch the opening shot and you've got the whole movie. So. When we were making Following, I was working in the field of corporate videos. I was doing camera work and sound work for media training sessions for companies and recording radio programs in a studio, that kind of thing. going into an environment, using a couple of lights, setting up very fast, and then having to do something to a very rigorous schedule. You're basically having to tell the actors they've got to make the film really with just first takes and the occasional second takes. I think I worked out that I could shoot a 2.5 to 1 ratio. That is to say, for every 2.5 minutes of film you shoot, you could get a minute of finished film. The entire film's made of first takes or second takes. I just happened to notice that with no-budget films, guns don't work very well. So we used, a hammer instead of a gun, because we could do a hammer cheaply and make a rubber hammer that we could, smash the guy's fingers with or whatever. So it just sort of, the notion stuck with me, and combined that with the experience of getting burgled and coming home and seeing your door to your flat smashed open. It's very easy to smash. So the thing that stops people invading your life in that way. I was living in London on Tottenham Court Road. As soon as we went out of my flat, I just became interested one day walking along with this notion of, instead of seeing, a crowd of people, say, okay, who's that person and where are they going, and following people at random on the streets, picking somebody out of a crowd.
And so I'd follow people to try and find out.
And following them to see where they go and what they do. And
you watch somebody's behaviour and it raises 100,000 questions.
One of the things I figured out is if we start the film in voiceover, where we knew we could get good sound, you could begin the film in such a way that people weren't immediately alienated by the quality of the sound. And so you could get 3-4 minutes into the film before you hit them with this, camera noise, cars going by, whatever. I write phone numbers in my hand, and I take notes, and I have souvenirs of things, and I use photography, and I'm very interested in the process of memory and the way it can be distorted and all the rest.
It's essentially dealing with somebody who can't make new memories.
One of the ways in which they try to carry on with their lives as normal as possible is to systematize everything. So you're not having to think about, oh, where did I leave my house keys? You just know they're in your left pocket. You just reach for them without even thinking. And over time, you can take a lot of activities that you would think require short-term memory. And as Leonard says in the film, habit and routine make his life possible. Guy's interesting in that respect because he worries about his memory. The irony being that he has a fantastic memory. I mean, absolutely fantastic. All the while he's making this film about this guy who can't remember anything. I mean, he remembers everything he's done in every setup absolutely perfectly.
Do you think there is something about the medium of cinema that particularly lends itself to dealing with stories which deal with memory?
I have a pretty good visual memory, but I have a tendency to remember, if I see a film and I remember it 6 months later, I tend to remember it reversed, as in left to right of the frame.
I think as far as influential movies and the things that sort of show me the potential of films, it was a very special time in terms of blockbusters. So George Lucas's first Star Wars came out when I was 7 years old, and The Spy Who Loved Me was the Bond film at the time. I remember going to see that in the cinema. Yeah, I mean, I think the first film I actually remember going to see was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I was about 7 years old, and they re-released 2001 in the wake of the tremendous success of Star Wars.
When that film was so successful, they re-released Kubrick's 2001.
So the appetite for anything to do with science fiction then was massive.
And my dad took me to see that on a huge screen in London.
The point of 2001 is the thing itself, is the experience itself.
But the wonderful thing about film and the era I've grown up in, as really the first, home video generation set of filmmakers on my age, so VHS player in the early 80s or when I was 12 years old or something.
Then FaceTime came along and seems completely relevant. 2001 has had a massive influence on the way in which we've imagined the future to be. So how much the people making the technology of today have been influenced by the film, and how much the film is just predicting where things would naturally go. It's impossible to disentangle.
How did you even begin?
It all really started from just an interest in dreams.
None of this is real. You're in a dream.
I've always been fascinated by the nature of dreaming, the idea that while we're dreaming we can create a world.
So we create and perceive our worlds.
If we dream we're having a conversation with somebody, we're dreaming that person, we're also creating the words that are in that person's mouth.
Our mind does this so well that we don't even know what's happening.
When you talk about dreams, you immediately start to think that that world is infinite, that anything is possible.
So what I felt I'd never seen was the portrayal of a dream that you could believe in its reality.
That was really the challenge in making Inception, was to keep everything grounded.
And then the realization that as you absorb that world, you're not aware of the fact that you've actually created it.
What is the most resilient parasite?
What Mr. Cobb is trying to say.
An idea.
Well, really at the heart of Inception is the notion that an idea is indeed a resilient parasite.
Once an idea has taken hold of the brain, it's almost impossible to eradicate. An idea that is fully formed, fully understood, that sticks.
It's like a virus. It can be communicated to other people once it's fully understood.
Everything in the film is based on one underlying principle. Dreams feel real while we're in them.
Well, dreams, they feel real while we're in them, right? It's only when we wake up that we realize something is actually strange.
It's an unusual film and a complicated film.
For me, when you watch the film, there's a sense in which we're addressing the idea that we're all sort of imprisoned in a way in our own views of the passage of time, of what's going on in the world, and all the rest.
The idea of time or some elements of the environment being reversed in time, some going forward and mixing that together.
You create a world in which physical objects, as you pointed out, can actually go backwards in time, although creating stuff that is happening forward in real time, as well as human beings that become inverted.
And through the rules of inversion, it can be inverted, and they can move backwards through time. They can then reinvert using a turnstile and then stop moving forwards in time, but they will continue to be on that timeline.
Yeah, you just have to kind of see it. It becomes a little overwhelming when it's verbal, and that's kind of the point. It's about the camera seeing time for us, and the camera being able to show us time backwards, forwards, speed it up, slow down, or whatever.
Let's look at time differently. Mm-hmm. Let's look at the action of a big action movie differently by approaching time differently.
It was the image and the notion of a bullet stuck in a wall being pulled out of the wall and back into a gun.
From your point of view, you caught it, but from the bullet's point of view, you dropped it.
You made it happen. Whether or not you drop the bullet, whether or not the bullet flies up to your hand.
You do it forwards, and now let's do it as if we're running it back, taking the same fight and then just two humans fighting each other, one who's living in real time moving forward and one who's already conducted the fight going backwards.
The best way to think of it, if you look at John David's experience and you follow him through the entire story, that's a single timeline that you're following. But that timeline can move both forwards and backwards.
Do you pretend like you understand every single thing in the script, or do you say, what the hell? Because it's a complex movie, let's be real. Like,
absolutely. So, yeah, I didn't understand that shit. Like,
Some people say they don't understand Tenet. Some people say they don't understand everything in Tenet. Do you understand everything in Tenet?
You're not meant to understand everything in Tenet.
Don't try to understand it. Feel it.
The protagonist, John David Washington's character, a lot of people have been wondering why he decided to hide or not go into his background.
I really wanted to tap into that kind of great tradition of the anonymous protagonist. You know, the TV show The Prisoner, for example, where he's known by a number, or the number he resists, number 6, known as The Prisoner. And so deliberately not naming him, not including any of the information about how he might have arrived there.
I know we're going to get an answer to that, but...
No, the point is to not answer that. You have to experience the movie to kind of know what it's on about.
But the way I look at it, it's like, you watch a James Bond film and Bond has to defuse a nuclear bomb.
You don't really have to know how he's defusing the nuclear bomb. You just need to know that it's going to blow up if he doesn't do it. You know, when you go to see Titanic, you know the ship's going to sink. You know, it's you know the iceberg's coming, but I think you enter a different world, and that foreknowledge occupies a different space in your brain. It's not literal, I don't know what's going to happen. What are the possibilities of science? What do concepts of relativity offer you for a narrative? The translation of a relatively academic source material, a piece of history, to something more immersive and more visceral is what made it special for me.
And as it's coming together, 2 + 2 starts to equal 5, 6, 7, 8.
Murphy's Law.
Murphy's Law doesn't mean that something bad will happen. What it means is that whatever can happen will happen. And that sounded just fine with us.
So I was so drawn to the storyline about the love between Matthew McConaughey and his daughter.
As a father myself, a father of
How many
4
children?
kids, 4 children.
It was all a human connection, so it was very intimate and personal.
Stay. It says stay, Dad.
The idea of mankind possibly having to leave the Earth one day and find a new home.
This thing needs to learn how to adapt, Murph, like the rest of us.
Well, I think you have to feel it with your own internal clock.
It is a question of you experiencing it rather than understanding every frame of it.
We really wanted the film to feel like we were being honest with the science, even though the audience can't be expected to understand it while they watch the film.
And does it matter if we don't understand everything?
No, not at all.
I'm wondering, did outer space always seem to you the ultimate frontier that you wanted to explore?
One of my most important cinematic memories was the first Star Wars, came out in 1977.
So the appetite for anything to do with science fiction then was massive.
Any interference?
It is about a feeling of authenticity. It's not about authenticity itself.
You tend to avoid CGI for practical effects or shooting an actual physical object doing a thing or a person doing a thing.
There's nothing more dispiriting than when you turn up to work and there's just a green screen with a couple of actors in front of it. It's really, the magic's not there.
Computers are going down.
I find CGI, however versatile it is, but it always tends to feel a little safe to me.
There's a feeling of reality, there's a feeling of being somewhere that matters.
Even if it's a miniature, even if it's something very fake, but something real on camera, I think it gives you a better result.
Do you ever have people come up to you and say, I loved Interstellar, Chris, but what was it about?
What was that?
Some remarkable eye-popping things happen in the third act of the movie. They may not necessarily move along the lines of the literal, but they do move within the worlds that physics allows.
There's a lot of technical information that goes into it, a lot of technicalities. There are a lot of different ways you can approach it. But ultimately, if you let that get in the way of instinct, I don't think you can make a good film. We had an incredible science advisor on the film, Kip Thorne, great astrophysicist who's an executive producer. He was offering a lot of great possibilities for what astrophysics, relativity, these things can offer you narratively. And I found them far more mind-blowing than anything I could come up with.
If there is an antagonist in the story, it is time itself. And time's relationship with gravity, gravity's relationship to the other dimensions we know and stuff.
And being told essentially to concentrate on the here and now.
We're here.
What did you want to accomplish with this movie?
and time are sort of characters within the movie.
Gravity's punishing.
Been floating through space too long?
What are the rules and logistics of this geography? What's what does it mean? What's gravity happening here? How's time different here? Is he a perfectionist? Is this gonna be like a guy who does 40 takes? No, he actually is always looking for the imperfection.
There is a deliberate confusion of scale in the visualization of these things. For me, that's how you really give the audience a grand scale entertainment, is to really take them someplace. That's the way it works. It's characters are defined through action, double cross, things they're doing to each other, your particular fears about whatever it is, your life, your relationships, whatever those things are.
And it's a space adventure that you call one hell of a ride.
Yeah.
Chris is a visionary.
I mean, really, for me, the goal is with each film that you make a film that somebody might enjoy the first time they see it, but then maybe years later, maybe come back to and watch it in a different way and find something else to it.
Your distributor must love you because people are going to have to see this 2 or 3 times. I know I want to see it again. I mean, did you actually think about that?
Yeah, how cynical are you?
My relationship with the studios is really trying to be honest and open about what the ambitions are for the film. And the audience comes, even though it's challenging material for that genre and that scale. That buys you some credibility with the people who are going to finance your next film.
It seems to me that the most significant thing that you've done with your films is to demonstrate that whether you're working with a small budget or a large budget, you treat the audience intelligently.
It's about how does that shot move me as an audience member. And as the director on set, that's the mindset I have to be in most of the time.
Do your films have meaning or being? In other words, do I have to get your film or can I experience your film?
You have to really enjoy the film for what it is and just do that. If you experience my film, you are getting it.
You don't have a cell phone or an email address?
I don't have an email address. I never use email, and I don't have a smartphone.
Because you would think it was 1847, the way he communicates.
I will carry a pay-as-you-go, like, dumb phone.
And obviously, Emma's produced alongside you all of your feature films.
What is it like for some people? Husband and wives and brothers working together can be a hot mess. That doesn't seem to be the case with you two.
No, it is a hot mess, but it's a great hot mess.
I enjoyed it, but I must admit, I slightly lost the plot. Not the first time that's happened.
I get that sort of equally most of my films. I think my generation of filmmakers understood really there's a responsibility to try and make something that has layers, something that has more to it the second time you see it.
What is Christopher Nolan saying this time?
Because what I've found with all of my films, people who approach it like it's a crossword puzzle, so they get frustrated. So really for me, it's about saying to people, no, come and be entertained and come and go on this journey with these characters. No, I encourage people to just come to the movie as an entertainment, as a ride. My life is like a Christopher Nolan movie. I don't really understand what's going on. I'd say don't try to understand it, just feel it.
Don't try to understand it. Feel it.